All right, let's do this. So, thank you for joining and welcome to Software Advice's interview series, Reimagining Your Business. My name is Blake Clark. I'm the general manager for Software Advice. I'm super excited for this interview today. My guest today, probably for a lot of you, doesn't actually need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. So I have the pleasure of speaking today with Rand Fishkin. Rand is the founder of SparkToro. He's an author. He's an entrepreneur. He's a marketeer extraordinaire and a whole bunch of other things as well. So let's bring Rand in. And Rand, welcome. Good to talk to you today.
Yeah, great to be here, Blake. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. So before we get started, I want to call out, we are live. There is no safety net. We're doing this live, and we're going to be answering audience questions at the end of it. So please use the Q&A feature in the presentation app and send us some really good questions. And we will put the really hard questions to Rand later. Yeah, they're coming for you, buddy.
I'm
all right.
waiting. I can't wait. Bring it on.
That's right. All right, Rand, you're a true entrepreneur. You've been through the ups and downs of starting and running businesses. Let's start with you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you're at.
Sure. Yeah. So Blake, you know that I dropped out of college. I was 2 classes away from graduating, but just couldn't stick with it. And started working in web design. This was 2001, right? Sort of .com boom. And my mom, Jillian, had been running a small business marketing consultancy for almost 20 years at that point, since 1981. And she had all these clients who needed web design and web development. And so that's what I did. I dropped out of school and I did web design for a few years. That business went really rocky, very poorly. We went deep into debt. We had owed tons of money to everybody. Literally, I think we owed like $100,000 at one point, but then we stopped being able to make the minimum payments on the debt.
Wow.
So if you don't make the minimum, right, Blake, then you're up a creek, right? The interest rate kicks in, and yeah. So we owed about $500,000 in 2004, 2005. And we were hiding the debt from my dad. He had no idea that we had this, that we dug ourselves into this horrible hole. And so I started this blog. I started a blog called SEO Moz, which some folks in the web marketing field might still be familiar with.
Indeed.
So this blog took off, right? There were a lot of people who were deeply interested in, how do I learn SEO? What's the process of ranking in Google and, at the time, Yahoo and MSN search and Ask Jeeves, if you remember them.
Oh, yeah.
And this blog sort of built the business that became later the company Moz. So we started some software that eventually became very popular. That subscription, we didn't even know what software as a subscription was. To us, it was just, hey, pay us every month because it costs us money to run these servers. And that quickly overtook the consulting business. In 2007, I became the CEO. We raised a bunch of rounds of funding. Moz grew rapidly, sort of 100% year over year, to about $30 million. And then I stepped down as CEO in 2014 and stayed at the company for another few years. I wrote this book. You can see behind me. Live. How great is that?
Right.
Lost and Founder. And I left the company in 2018, start of 2018. The book came out right after that. And then I started SparkToro the day after I left Moz. So I took like 8 hours off. It was a good holiday.
Yeah. You relaxed a lot in those 8 hours.
I like to chill.
Yeah, we all do. So I love that story. So you had no background in marketing, anything like that. It sort of came out of this story of this time of you and your mom in business together. Is that like, if you knew then, or like, did you have any idea that what you were doing at that time would ever lead to what Moz became, SparkToro, the whole thing?
Yeah, you know what's really odd about that? It's a great question. I think the strange thing, I've never thought about it before, but SparkToro is much, much closer to what I thought I would build, back in 2004, 5, 6, even 7. Moz, in a lot of ways, was a very accidental startup, right? There was some software I wanted to build. Like what happened was it's 2006, maybe early 2007, and Google had provided all this data to web marketers and SEO people about link data, right? So they would show you, like if you wanted to see what are all the links that point to this website that I'm trying to rank in Google, or the competitors, or any website on the internet, they would tell you all the links that they knew about. You could just type link colon and then the website, and they'd show you all the links that they knew about. And then Google took that data away.
Mm.
Yahoo for a while was still providing it through this thing called Yahoo Site Explorer, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they all took it away. And I was mad. I was so angry. I thought this was just like wrong and evil. And so the reason that we raised capital in 2007 is because I wanted to rebuild a web index, a link index, so that marketers could get this data back. I thought, it'll be a good business move, but also I just really am mad at the search engines for taking it away, and I want to give it back to people. And yeah, it ended up being a great business, but it put us on this really different path, right? Once you raise venture capital, you're kind of in the world of returning, 5, 10x, hopefully even more of that money to your investors over this certain time period. And so you're spending fast to grow fast. Moz, a lot of the things I thought I was supposed to do was like build a big team, build a big company, try and get growth over profitability or sustainability or personal health and happiness. And that is not, I don't think that's the right way to go anymore.
Yeah.
I'm glad I tried it. I'm glad I'm out of it.
Well, I think there's so much to learn from it that this audience can benefit from hearing your perspective on. So it's Software Advice. We talk to businesses all the time that only have a few people, kind of like the story you just shared, you and your mom, early days, you're wearing a bunch of hats. As an entrepreneur yourself, what are the most important parts of running your own business? What are the must-haves that you got to get right, and what are the must-avoids?
Yeah. I mean, the list is long. I won't try and be comprehensive, but I think that I have benefited tremendously in SparkToro, which is only 2 people, right? It's just me and Casey. We are, tiny little team. We use a lot of contractors and agencies. And the reason for that is Casey and I have certain skills. We know what those skills are, right? Like we know, oh, we're good at these things. We're not great at these things. We need help with this. We can do well with these other ones. We complement each other's skill sets really well. Casey is very technical. I am very not technical, but I'm pretty good at marketing. And that combination works very, very well for us. So I think that's at the core of what you need. I also think we did 2 things that I'm really glad we did that I would urge every other software builder, entrepreneur, founder, creator of any kind to do. One is, before we started the company together, we had a lot of long conversations about what happens if things go right and what happens if they go wrong. And what are our sort of like mental models for what we want to build and what we don't want to build, and what we're excited to drive toward and what we really don't want to drive toward. And because we had alignment on those before we started the company, and we wrote them down, right? We like created some documents. Some of them are totally informal. Some of them are actually formalized in our incorporation papers, right? As an LLC with our lawyer. So what happens if Casey gets hit by a bus? What happens if, I don't know, something bad happens and one of us needs to like take significant time off from the business and we have to recruit somebody else and yada, yada, right? Like we walk through all these bad scenarios and good ones and decide upfront, here's what's going to happen. That is something I think way too few founders of any kind of company, but software in particular, do. And then you get into all these messy, ugly, the Social Network movie, right? Where it's like, oh, Eduardo Saverin, I'm going to screw you over, like, yeah, that kind of thing.
Did you write down in things that could go wrong? What do we do in case of a global pandemic?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we knew ahead of time. I don't know if you know, but Tom Hanks, Bill Gates, the lizard people, some vampires, and Hillary Clinton all texted us like in 1995 and told us that this
This
was
is
happening.
Well, I want to talk about 2020 because things are so different especially for small businesses, the types of companies you talk to all the time. What are your observations around the strange reality of 2020? What are you seeing out there as a marketer of things that have changed or different?
Yeah, I mean, it's very bifurcated. You know how they talk about like what the recovery's going to look like and has looked like so far, and I think the most accurate description was that the K-shaped
Mhm.
recovery, right? Which is oh, I should go this way.
Yeah.
Ooh, that way. Yeah, there you go. So, and the reason that they describe it as K-shaped is because there's sort of one part of the economy, several parts of the economy that do quite well out of it. One of those, obviously, being e-commerce, right? So,
Yeah.
tons of people have gotten their businesses online, and as a result of getting their businesses online and doing well on the internet, they have grown their businesses. There's been lots of opportunity around software and technology and logistics and yada, yada, yada. And then there's other parts of the economy that are really struggling, having a super hard time. Obviously, things like travel and events and entertainment and sports and yada, yada. And then, I think it's also K-shaped in that many people who are sort of upper middle class to wealthy have done quite well, and everyone else, including a lot of the middle class and folks without means, especially in the United States, have done very, very poorly. And now that the stimulus is ending, you could see the jobs report today, right? That was pretty devastating and worse than expected again. So it's really, really hard. I think for marketers, what's been difficult is trying to have the conversation of, hey, we need to change both how we market, all three: how we market, where we market, and what we market,
Hmm.
right? So we need to recognize that demand is changing. The what people want is not exactly the same as what they wanted 9 months ago, 12 months ago. And so we have to keep up as a business. That is often a bigger conversation than how much of our Facebook ad budget should we take and put toward podcast ads or something, right?
Yeah, it's you mentioned some businesses or some sectors. It's been pretty, maybe not easy, but they've been able to transition quickly and adapt. Others, it's more difficult. We talk to small businesses every day, and some of them are in industries that have had to just rapidly shift gears. Like we talk to a lot of doctors' practices that suddenly had, that's an in-person thing till suddenly it's not. And they've got to quickly figure out telemedicine. There's been a lot of restaurants and retail operations that suddenly, have to be online quickly. Would you
Yeah.
give me advice or tips? Like, what are some of the tactics that those businesses should be thinking about right now in order to make that change and do it successfully?
On the marketing side, I think one of the biggest ones is building up an audience. Like
Hmm.
it is very dangerous to have your audience essentially be only accessible through either A, advertising, or B, platforms that somebody else controls, right?
Yeah.
So if you say, oh, well, we're whatever, we had a great summer as a sushi business, and it's fine because outdoor dining works and yada, people come here. And
Right.
now we're going into the winter and like, oh, how are we going to reach our online audience? Well, people will come to us. No. Like
Yeah.
don't make that mistake. Don't assume people will come to you. Don't assume that if they liked your Facebook page, you'll be able to reach them. Average Facebook page reach for organic is 0.09% in 2020, right? Like just you cannot rely on that. If they're following you on, I don't care, TikTok or Instagram, like that's not helpful. The two ways to think about this are: one, you have those people's email addresses. I would say that is the most important thing that a business can invest in for being able to build up execute on pent up demand and quickly change what they're doing. Because an email address is, look, email open rates, I think average around 22% according to MailChimp. That's decent, right?
Yeah.
That's a fifth of your audience. You send a couple mailers, you can probably get a lot of people to break through those. And you can use an email address to do remarketing and retargeting. You can upload an email address to something like Clearbit or Full Contact and get all their social data and get analysis from that. Like, there's a lot of options if you have an email address. The only other one I think that's really valuable and useful is getting people to your actual website. And that can happen, mostly happens via Google search. That they control about 2/3 of all referral traffic. And then, social networks can send you some, referring links can send you some, getting some PR is helpful, right? Getting covered by folks, that's helpful. I think finding opportunities to be mentioned and talked about and amplified by sources your customers already pay attention to, that is really big. That'll help you not just directly, but in all these indirect and brand affinity and memory and Google ranking sorts of ways too.
Yeah. It's if you were one of these small businesses and again, you're wearing a lot of hats, you may not be an expert in marketing. Like, what are some easy ways to start? I love that idea of email addresses. Completely agree. Those like it's an asset, right? You are building up an asset there that can pay you returns for a long time. Are there any kind of simple beginning steps for businesses to start doing some of those things?
Yeah. So funny enough, I wrote a blog post, I think just a few weeks ago, called like, if you're going to do web marketing, where should you start? You're going to launch something new. You're getting into a new project. And basically my advice is to find tactics and strategies that are at the intersection of three things. And those three are, number one, an area where you have personal interest and passion.
Okay.
Like, Blake, I don't know about you. I have never seen a marketer be like, I hate Instagram, but I guess I'll do it.
Right.
Like, you're terrible at it. You're gonna suck at that. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's just not gonna be good. So look, if there's a marketing technique or tactic that you think is distasteful, but you feel like you have to invest in it, maybe consider alternatives. Right? Yeah. If you love short messages, maybe Twitter is an interesting one for you, even if it's not the most direct thing. If you are great at writing emails to people, maybe an email newsletter is the way to go for you. If you love having conversations like the one you and I are having right now, maybe it's a video interview series. Maybe you talk to other sushi chefs around the world and have conversations like that. Maybe you're setting up a podcast series, whatever it is, right? Somewhere where you have interest and passion. The second one is, it's got to hit your audience. If your audience does not listen to podcasts or consume web video, or they're not active on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is, then that channel is probably not as ideal, right? You want to go after people where they are.
Yeah.
And the third one is some place where you can add unique value. So differentiated from what everyone else is doing in that channel with that tactic. And I think that's a really hard one, because a lot of marketers assume that they can just put out whatever the thing is. I can send an email newsletter. I can send tweets. I can post to Instagram. I can put up blog posts. Yes, you can. Why is it different from everything else that everyone else on the web is doing in a unique way that's going to add more differentiated value? So if you hit all three of those, that I think is where you can start. And I am not, look, I know there's like this big philosophy right now. I think maybe started or amplified by people like Gary Vee, right? That you have to be everywhere. Like, how are you not TikToking and Redditing and Snapchatting all the time? F that. Like, I don't believe that at all. I think if you can find one or two channels that work really well for you, that is great. You can focus and concentrate and get better and better at those channels, that one channel, that one tactic. Awesome. Fine.
Yeah.
You're going to do great, especially as a small and medium business.
Yeah. Focus on something and be great.
Focus.
I love that. All right. I want to go to some questions. There's some good ones here. So, all right, this is from Charles. He asks, we offer live video restreaming across all social platforms. How can I find and reach content creators without being annoying?
Ooh, I love this. What a great question. Sorry, what was who asked this?
Charles.
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 Yes. Solid. Okay, I have a really good one for you, buddy. So,
Pay attention.
one of the things that I have found that is crazy effective for outreach of all kinds, like you want to, whatever, contact a person or a brand or a publication, and you want them to engage with you and consider doing something, right? One of the best ways I found to do this is to make the connection in an authentic way first on a social channel. So you find a content creator, you comment on their Instagram post, they reply with something fun. Now you send them an email and are like, hey, Blake, I saw it was fun chatting with you on Instagram today.
Yeah.
That opener alone will open the door to getting a response at the very least. So much more traction, which is such a higher percent of response than a cold outreach. So have that interaction. You can wait for it. You start following and engaging with a content creator, especially since you're in video restreaming. You find a content creator who's consistently creating stuff. You have engagement around the stuff they're making, right? So they sort of recognize your name and your profile, and they're like, oh yeah, Charles, I've seen him on my channels and stuff. And then you send that email, that follow-up email, boom.
Yeah. There you go. I like that. Have you done that? Is that how you've done those things?
Oh yeah. I mean,
Okay.
This works so well. I do it most heavily on Twitter and LinkedIn, but it works like a charm, right? And it does create very authentic connections because I actually know, it's not that I know the person, but I know a little bit about them and what they're up to and what they're interested in. And so when I do that outreach, it's just much more value add and authentic.
Yeah. Love it. It's a great answer. All right, Charles, go try that out and let us know. We'll report back. Let us know how it goes. All right. So I want to ask you about how can somebody who doesn't know a lot about marketing, but especially like SEO, they may not have a lot of familiarity with search engine optimization. How can they get started? What are the top 2 or 3 things to consider when you want to go start implementing an SEO strategy?
Yeah. SEO is big, thorny, complex. It's competitive these days. It's not like it was 10, 15 years ago where you could just start out and have a lot of success.
It feels like alchemy sometimes. You got to be an alchemist to get it right.
And there's just so many elements, right? The algorithm is incredibly sophisticated. The bar to being able to do well in search is pretty high. Let's see. I would recommend 2 things. One is if you're looking to get started. Last year, I filmed a video series. I think it's only about an hour long. It's broken up into 4 or 5 segments. It's hosted on my old company's website, Moz. It's this like beginner's guide to SEO in video form. So if you're watching this video and you think, oh, that Rand guy is not terrible to watch and listen to for an hour, that might be a good starting point. It's free. You don't have to like put in your email address or anything. You can just watch, and that is still very relevant. That'll help you get started. The other thing I would say is if you are trying to think about an SEO strategy right now, I would be passionate about considering this sort of fundamental challenge that SEO sort of serves all parts of the funnel, right? So there's like people at the top of the funnel who are, I am not yet aware of your business, or I'm not yet aware of the problem that your business solves. I don't know why I need video restreaming. I don't know why I need to order sushi in the winter. I don't know why I need, blue shirts with dots on them, which Blake and I seem to, we know why you need those.
That's right. Closet full.
We know why you need them, but not everybody knows, right? And so the I think reality here is that you have to consider that you're creating content for all levels of this marketing funnel, right? For the top, to get people aware of you, and that often that awareness stuff is, it is not content for your customers. It
Okay.
is content for people who will amplify and talk about and broadcast and have interest in. It's the kind of stuff where you think, why would a journalist write about this?
Hmm.
Which is super different from why would a customer read this and then come buy from me?
Yeah.
So, that's sort of the bottom of the funnel, and there's this spectrum. And look, in SEO, you have to do all three, right? You've got to do sort of top of funnel awareness stuff, middle of
Hmm.
funnel, customer journey stuff, and then bottom of funnel conversion.
Hmm.
Those are three different types of content. They have different sorts of promotion. You'll have to find ways to earn links to all of those to get people to talk about them, to build up your website's kind of authority by getting people. Usually the top of the funnel stuff is the easiest way to build up that authority, get people to link to you, talk about you. And then it's
Okay.
middle of funnel and bottom of funnel that you create later to get that audience to convert.
I see. All right. That's helpful. And it kind of dovetails with a question from the audience. It says increasingly more companies have had to adjust their digital marketing goals and KPIs due to lower conversions. How should marketers adjust what they're measuring and expecting in terms of results?
Yeah, that's
That's a tough one.
super solid question. I've been dealing with this a lot. We've in fact been dealing with it at SparkToro. Like when we launched, Blake, funny story. I don't know if it's funny, tragic and funny story. When we launched, it was in February that we sent out our first sort of early access email for the product, and we got a bunch of activity, like so much so that I sent we don't have venture investors, but we have like private investors, kind of just individual people. And I sent them an email and I was like, oh, I think you made a really good decision. Look at our conversion rate. It's crazy high. Like, this is going to be an awesome business. And then by over the course of March, the conversion rate just fell dramatically,
Yeah.
literally by 90%. And over the course of March and April, I was emailing all these people, right?
Yeah.
I'm emailing all the people on our early access list, which is about 10,000 or so, 12,000, and getting bounce backs that are not out of office.
Hmm.
They are, so and so no longer works here, right? Like 15% of our email list no longer was employed at the at the end of April, and that was just brutal to see in your
Yeah.
inbox every morning, right? Like dozens to hundreds of email addresses of people who don't have jobs, and so we did what I'm advising a lot of other people to do, which is recognize that a lot of your customers don't have dollars to spend right now, or they might even have budget and interest, but they are unable to execute on that, especially in travel and entertainment and events. And so I think a big part of a marketer's job right now is instead to capture interest and attention and
Hmm.
use that to execute on pent up future demand later on. And that means, by that I mean, get an email address, get someone visiting your website so that later you can remarket and retarget them, you can reach out to them again. And so I would change your conversion goals, or I would prioritize the conversion goals in your analytics and in your campaigns to be, did I capture that email address? Right?
Right.
That's how we've been thinking about a ton of it. We decided to make the free version of our tool just a lot more robust,
Hmm.
so that there was a lot more incentive for people to use the free version and get value from it and then share it with other people. And that's been hugely helpful. We've had like another 15,000 people, 17,000 people use the free version over the last 5 months. And then we capture their email address. And my hope is over the next, whatever it is, 6 to 18 months, as hopefully, maybe the economy turns around sometime next year, we can execute on a lot of that pent up demand. We'll have people who are looking for opportunities to market their businesses and grow, and they'll look at SparkToro because they tried it and they got value from it. I think that's a really good way to think about how to change up your goal structure right now too.
Yeah. And I love that. So it's more like build a relationship and monetize later. Maybe that is actually even a thought. This is a question that's coming in from LinkedIn Live. That is, how do you use email marketing in today's social media world? So social media is all the rage. Where's email fit?
The beautiful thing about email is that open rate and click-through rate is so much higher than social. But also, you can take an email address and you can use it to send to Facebook, to send to Google, and then to have those networks show your ads, your messaging. You can do this with YouTube as well, to people whose email address you've captured, which is sweet, right? Like that's amazing to be able to say, oh, I was on this webinar, these 700 people joined the webinar. I want to show those 700 people a follow-up where they can get the whatever slides. I know they're interested in this because they signed up for it. I can market to them later. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. You can do this with Twitter advertising as well. You can do it with LinkedIn. You can take email addresses and plug them into a service. There's two I'm aware of. There's probably more, but one's Clearbit and one is Full Contact, which is what we use. We use the Full Contact Person API. It's super easy. It sounds technical and challenging. It's not. And then they will give you back, like, I'd upload rand@sparktoro.com and they'll send me back. Rand@sparktoro.com is facebook.com/rand.fishkin and twitter.com/randfish and linkedin.com/in/randfishkin or whatever it is. And so you get all those URLs. Now you can target people through social. You can analyze them. SparkToro will let you upload those URLs and then get audience intelligence analysis on them. So there's just a ton of things you can do with an email and a social, to get a social URL and then to do marketing across both display, social, search, and of course, email marketing.
Yeah, I love that idea. I'm going to write that one down. That one, I won't, you can't even bill me for. I think it's a great idea. Humble email, still such a big opportunity. All right, so I want to start wrapping up the conversation. I do want to ask you about something that I saw you did, Rand. This is a few years ago, that demonstrates your dedication, your grit, your determination. So several years ago, you did something that was so awesome that you got invited on Oprah to talk about. And it's awesome. And tell us that story.
I was sure that was going to go any other place. Let's see. So, yeah. All right. So long story short, I was running a website, somewhat embarrassing. This is back in 2007, when Geraldine, my wife, and I were dating. For folks who don't know, but bringing it full circle, when we were deeply in debt and I couldn't afford to pay myself anything, Geraldine, who's my girlfriend, right, like out of college, was paying our rent and all our bills for years. So she likes to say that she was my first investor, which I think is fair. So I was trying to figure out a way to propose to her, because this is, I don't know why I had it in my head that I had to do the grand gesture thing, but it's actually not very much our personality now, but at the time it seemed reasonable. And I was running this website called mysuperproposal.com, which was designed to raise money to buy a Super Bowl ad to propose to my now wife.
Go big.
That did not work. It didn't work. It did raise some money, which was all donated to the Nashville Children's Hospital. But It got a lot of national attention. Like it was the most, I think Ad Age ran a survey to see like, what's the commercial you're most excited about? And that was the winning one. Like that was the one people were most excited about, was this proposal thing. It got a bunch of media attention. There was like weird, I had to drive to an airport hotel once and get interviewed by like the Entertainment Tonight show or something, and they blacked out my face and made my voice all robotic and all that kind of crazy stuff. Anyway, Target, the retailer Target called up and they're like, "Hey, we want to sponsor the Super Bowl ad." So I flew to Minneapolis. I told Geraldine it was like a work thing. Pretended we flew to Minneapolis, or I did, and then filmed an ad like. I don't think anyone's ever proposed to their significant other as many times as I have, because I was in a studio for 8 hours, doing a 30-second ad over and over and over again.
Again, with more feeling this time.
Yeah, that's. Oh, you're the director. That was you. Anyway, Target pulled out. They pulled out a few days before the Super Bowl, like just before the Super Bowl. They said, no, we're not going to do it. And so instead, I filmed my own private commercial here in Seattle. I paid $2,000 to have it air on a local TV network the next week during Geraldine's favorite show. And she saw it, freaked out. I hid a camera in the room that filmed her. And then that video was on YouTube. Wow. That's why Oprah's people like called up and were like, "Hey, we want to have you on our Valentine's Day episode." And I said, they did not like this. I said, Blake, I was like, "Hey, we've been wanting to visit the Chicago Museum of Art.
Yeah.
If you fly us out like a day early and put us up an extra night so we can go to the museum, like, sure, we'll do it." And they were like, no, we're Oprah. Like you do things for us. I mean, I was like, why? But no, we're doing you a favor. You take us to the art museum. So they agreed, and we went on the show. I think I had one line.
Well, it was great. I saw the video. It's awesome. It put my proposal to shame. So my hat is off to you. All right. I have one kind of final question that's come in from the audience. So I'll put this one to you. All right. So people get inclined toward heavy portfolios, but as a startup, what do you suggest we do to intervene in the cluster of IT industry? Cluster of maybe industry. Yeah. So people are really heavy. I'm guessing, using lots and lots and lots of technology. But if you're a startup, how do you solve that one?
I mean, I do not feel like you need a very heavy portfolio at all to get started. I know a ton of quite successful marketers, small and medium businesses. SparkToro itself, we literally have, it's WordPress, Google Analytics, MailChimp. We use Mailgun for our automated emails. A couple other things. We use Hotjar, which I really like for heat mapping. But there is not a lot of technology in there, and it doesn't cost very much either. We're talking about a few $100s a month in recurring software. So I think it's a lot less about the technology. You want to make some good decisions, right? If you end up with the wrong, website builder, that can really screw up your SEO. It can really screw up your ability to do the kinds of content creation that you might want to do. So I like the flexibility of something broad like WordPress.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't think you need a huge tech stack. And I don't think you need a ton of analytics to be able to learn from what's working and what's not.
Okay.
Like the numbers are relatively simple. I think a lot of people get stuck in this paralysis of, we've got all these different metrics that we're trying to drive toward. Keep it simple, man. Like, have two things you care about. I care about, conversions. Maybe three things: conversions, lifetime value of those conversions, and capturing email addresses. Done. Right? Those are the three things we drive toward. Do our marketing efforts get those things done? Wonderful.
Yeah.
Are they missing out? Do some things work better and worse? Great. Let's figure that out. Let's play it again. And this is a long term thing. Like almost every form of organic marketing, content, social, search, email. These are all long term plays,
Hmm.
right? Like when you started this software advice video series, the first few are going to have a small number of people, but then the hope is that over time, more people get interested in it. And then they go back and watch previous episodes, and the new episodes attract more people sign up, right? The email list gets bigger, blah, 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 blah. Like it's a snowball effect rolling down the hill.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to build that flywheel slow and steady. So don't put pressure on yourself that everything you do has to work out
Hmm.
the first time.
I think that's some really powerful wisdom there. I love just what you call that. It doesn't actually have to cost a lot of money, especially in 2020. It doesn't. Cool. Well, that's a great answer. I know that's really helpful. I did want to ask. People want to follow you. They want to keep up with you. They want to read some of the things you've written. They want to access the SEO guide you mentioned. What's the best way
Yeah.
for them to keep up with you?
Yeah. So I have been writing on sparktoro.com/blog. So you can check out the blog there. I'm most active if you're interested in all sorts of things that I do. Most active on Twitter, where I'm at Randfish. And that SEO guide that I mentioned, if you search for beginner's guide to SEO, it's on Moz.
Okay, it's the first
Yeah.
result. That's right.
It should probably the first result. I used to be pretty good at this thing called SEO. So
Cool. All right. Last question. If you had to give one piece of advice that any entrepreneur or business owner that's listening, watching this, should go do right now, one impactful thing, what would you tell
oh, this is going to be so weird. You should get more sleep. I'm 100% serious. I'm 100% serious. So I think the most important job of a founder, an entrepreneur, is to make great decisions. And the best way to ensure that your decision making will be high quality is to have several weeks of high quality sleep behind you.
them?
And if you are in a mode where you are, only getting 5, 6, 7 hours, consider ditching a bunch of other things that you're doing so that you can sleep more, so that you can eat healthy and live healthy. Your decision making will go way up. The prevalence of things like depression and anxiety and fear will go way down. You will be a better human being, and that's priceless. You cannot. There's no amount of software you can buy, or people you can hire, or work that you can do that is worth being able to make great decisions, and that requires sleep most of all, and healthiness in your life. So I know it's really weird, but Rand told me I should get more sleep. I'm telling you, it was life changing for me. It'll be life changing for you.
Yeah, that's really well said, Rand. Thank you so much. We will wrap it there. So, Rand, thank you so much for joining, and really appreciate the conversation today.
Yeah, it was wonderful being here, Blake. Take care of yourself.
All right, bye, everybody.